When you come out of complex trauma, you develop ways of relating to survive. And those kept you safe, the ways you learn to relate. But what you find is as you get older, they don't work so well anymore. But it's important to go back and really understand your relationship style and why you relate the way you relate. When we talk about complex trauma, one of the terms that I use regularly is a dysfunctional family. And I have had many, hundreds of people say to me, everybody's got a dysfunctional family. We all are dysfunctional. And what goes on in their mind is this distinction that goes, the only other option to dysfunction is perfect. So nobody's got a perfect family, so we're all dysfunctional. And that seems to make sense, but it really misses an important piece. And that is dysfunctional. The opposite isn't perfect, the opposite is functional. But what does that mean? So the word dys for dysfunctional actually means in pain. And so what we mean when we say a dysfunctional family, it's a family that's in pain and a family that can't resolve pain. So let me broaden that for you. All families go through pain. All families have hard times. All families have bad things that happen. A functional family is able to deal with those things, resolve it, and come out the better for it. So there are functional families. So to be a functional family doesn't mean you never go through hard times. All families do. What makes it a dysfunctional family is it can't resolve that pain. And so the members of the family live in unresolved pain, which leads to the piling up of pain. And that is the reality of a dysfunctional family. And so what we're going to see as we go into this is that children growing up in pain, they begin to go in their mind, what do I need to do? And they have three different priorities in their mind. What do I need to do is in how I relate so that I don't get hurt again. Secondly, what can I do as a kid that will help this family in pain? And thirdly, how do I get my needs met in this family that is in a lot of pain? And so that's where the roles come into play. In a family of complex trauma, a dysfunctional family, there's the one child that's referred to as the troublemaker. They're the ones that's defiant, rebellious, angry all the time, and he just won't get with the program and smarten up. Now let me say this right up front. Of all the roles that we're going to look at, the problem child is the one person in the family that is being honest. Everybody else is lying, both to each other and to themselves. What is going on in the scapegoat or the problem child is they're saying this family is sick. And I'm not going to lie about that. We're messed up. And everybody walks around like we love each other and like all our needs are being met. Well, they're not. And I'm not going to go along with it. I'm rebelling. Now, what I want you to get is this. Their rebellion is actually a healthy thing. Because they're saying, I don't want a house of lies where we abuse and hurt each other. I refuse to go along with that. I rebel against what's happening here. Now that's how it starts. A good rebellion. The problem is it goes into a bad rebellion as well. But that's what it begins. Now, that's what's going on in the child. Now, here's why the parents like the scapegoat. Now, when people say, You seem to have trouble in your family. They go, look at our hero child. We're good parents. The reason we're having trouble is because of this child. He's the problem, and that's why he's called the scapegoat. He is blamed for all the problems in the family, in the marriage. And what the parents basically communicate is this: if we didn't have this child, we wouldn't have any problems in our family. It all gets pinned on that child. So they're actually quite happy to have this child because they got somebody to blame for their stuff. And they don't want to look at their stuff, so they have a scapegoat to put it on. So that then results in this problem child getting blamed for everything. And so more stuff gets piled on them all the time. Now, a couple other things are happening with the scapegoat. The scapegoat becomes the honest expression of how everybody's really feeling but afraid to show. So when he rebels and he gets angry and he lashes out and he speaks his mind to mom and dad, he's really giving a voice to everybody. They won't admit it, but that they're almost thankful for. But then what happens with this scapegoat is they're really ostracized by the family. The family says, you're the problem, and they kind of feel like a black sheep. They don't fit. They don't belong in this family because they refuse to play by the rules of this family. And so they feel like an outsider, an outcast. So that's as a child. Now let me show you what happens as they get older into adult life. I find it interesting in working with scapegoats or problem child people all the time is that most were extremely sensitive children. That's what clued them in that this family's got problems because they got hurt so much and they weren't prepared to tolerate it or turn a blind eye. But in order to survive, they had to rebel. And in order to rebel, they had to harden their heart and harden their skin and shut down their sensitivity. And so what begins to happen in a problem child as they get into their teens is they try not to feel anything at all. And they shut everything down. Now that will become problems for them later in life. They will have to relearn how to feel emotions. They will have to really enter into scary territory. So that's the first problem. The next one, part of their rebellion in their teens is they started getting applause from other kids for being a bad boy. And so they said, wow, here's how I get my validation. I can't be validated in my family because the hero gets all the validation. So I will get validation from being a bad boy. And they tried to be the baddest of the bad. And what often happened is they felt in order to get new validation, they had to keep pushing the envelope. So last time they drank a whole 12-pack at a party. Tonight they're drinking a 2-4 at a party. And everybody's going to talk about how drunk they got. And then they push and push, always a new way of rebelling against the system. And that can be a problem. And then as soon as somebody says, who's in authority, I want you to do this, they've trained themselves to do the opposite. And so in a relationship, if their partner said, could you do this for me? They just get their back up. And they don't want to do that for them. And so to have a relationship They're going to have to look at that rebellious, knee-jerk reaction that is so part of how they train themselves to respond to authority and to rules. And then, much of what they learn to do in their rebellion is to manipulate people, to intimidate people. So they got what they want, but people don't see them as safe. People see them as a bit of a danger, a loose cannon, as a person who couldn't be trusted, a person that's just got too many anger issues. And so they struggle with all of that. And so the problem child, it started out really good. They refused to accept a sick situation. But what happened is they, in order to maintain that role, had to get sicker and sicker themselves. They don't realize how sick they had to become. And so now when they come into adult life, they're going to still find people who pat them on the back for being a bad boy and pushing the envelope. But if they're going to get healthy and have healthy relationships, they got to be able to let that bad boy go. Now, here's a challenge that many have. They go, if I let go of the bad boy, then who am I? I don't want to become a weak, little, mushy, sensitive person again that's going to get walked all over and hurt. And so, to give up a role, either the hero or the problem child, the scapegoat, there's a fear. A fear that if I drop this role, will I get hurt again? Will I get my needs met again? What will happen? And so for the scapegoat, the hero, yes, there's fear, but you're never going to get healthy unless you walk through it. And that's what we're about, is helping people walk through that and begin to change so that they can have meaningful relationships today. Let me say one final thing about the problem child, the bad boy. I find that, so let's say you were a bad girl, okay? Isn't it interesting how bad girls are attracted to bad boys? And guess what happens in recovery? Bad girls, they are prepared to give up being a bad girl, but for some reason they're still attracted to bad boys. That's a recipe for disaster. So if that is your pattern, you're going to have to look at that piece as well.